What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my series that I do once in a while where every time a new patch comes out, sorry, I just had to adjust something there. Every time a new patch comes out, I just do a rundown and my take on a few things because a couple weeks ago, some people asked me to do this, and this is something I like doing. I like talking about patches, so here we go. We're starting off Rek'Sai. She will be available sometime during this patch. I am predicting, if you're going to ask me, I am predicting she is available tomorrow night at around this time, at around 5 p.m. Azir, bug fixes. Nothing happening too crazy. I still haven't gotten around to really playing Azir because he's really expensive still, 6,300 IP, and I just have like 500. I keep spending it on like runes and just rune pages and stuff like that. So W, E, and R, he has dealt with the most bugs out of any champion I've ever seen. I mean, I think they just rushed him, to be honest with you. I'm a big fan of Riot's, but I think they rushed Azir to just throw him out there right after Gnar. If anyone remembers, Gnar released, and then they just threw him out the next day. They threw out the concept in the page and all that, and we can really tell because he was not ready. Alright, big changes for Cass. Cass's recent update definitely gave her the late game we intended, but at too great costs. Early game strength and her identity as a poison mage. That is definitely true. If you lane against Cass, it is probably the easiest lane you will ever have. So they changed her passive. Cassiopeia builds a stack of Aspect of the Serpent, and it used to be on every poisoned unit kill, once every 6 seconds. So 10 times per minute, for every second that an enemy champion is poisoned. So see, in my opinion, Cass, they want to just make her a hyper carry, right? They want to make her like a hyper carry AP mid laner that has her Poison Fang identity, and that's exactly what they're doing. The Q. They fixed a bug where Noxus's blast delay was actually normalized, and they gave it a movement speed bonus. It's 20% in all ranks now. It doesn't scale, but you also don't get the 30% later. So E, Twin Fang. Twin Fang now adds a debuff on the target that amplifies further poison damage by plus 20% for 5 seconds. If you don't realize how big that is, that's really big. Capping at 40% poison damage, she's going to go from doing no damage in lane to doing really good damage in lane. And like I said, though, that is capped to 0.55 ability power instead of 0.6. But like I said, they added this Twin Fang, so it evens out. Now, as a Cho'Gath player, life is hard for a Cho'Gath, and I really don't like this change. Feast now has 50% of its cooldown and mana cost refunded if it kills a minion or monster. Okay, a lot of people might look at this like, oh, you're being a dumbass. Cho is in a bad place. He needed this. I like building 40% cooldown reduction Cho'Gath. I mean, you can call me crazy, but it's pretty easy to get to with 5% in your masteries and Frozen Heart, etc. But now that they changed it to 80 seconds, it really kind of sucks because I could get my ult off before a couple times in a minute, and this is going to delay it. It's going to add another 20 seconds. Now, they did add that, because I like to play like Insta-Burst, AP, attack speed Cho'Gath with Nashor's Tooth and stuff. It's kind of weird. I did a video about it. It's on my channel. A little plug there. Never hurt anyone. But now that it has Feast for 50%, I just don't like this change. I don't know. It needed a 50% cooldown, but you don't plan on dying on Cho a lot, and it's just a bad change. I don't know. I might have to get used to it, but I hate that at this moment. Corki. His Q travels slower. Not a big deal here. With the nerfs to Lucian, huge nerfs to Lucian, by the way. That's going to kill me in this patch. One of my mains. Corki is now the best AD carry in lane to me. If I'm Lucian, I fear no man. I fear no man except for now, Corki, and except now I fear Graves too, because Lucian, I think, will start getting out-traded in lane now. He's no longer the lane bully he once was for this whole year. Year and a half, I would say. Diana. Our Lunar Rush. Casting Lunar Rush on targets that have the Moonlight debuff will reset Lunar Rush's cooldown, even if Diana is interrupted out of her dash. Thank you. Diana is one of the champions, one of the few champions I actually think was over-nerfed. A lot of champions are balanced, and then people see you do really good with them, and they gain popularity, LeBlanc, and suddenly they get over-nerfed. But that was when she had lost everything. But anything to help out Diana. She's on crutches at the moment. Fiddlesticks. So, he has a new passive. Dealing magic damage or castifying Terrify applies Dread to enemies for 2.5 seconds, reducing their magic resist by 10. And they removed Fiddlesticks no longer applies Dread to all enemy units within 800 range. Pretty big changes there. I'll talk about that more in a second. E Dark Wind. New bounce all day. Now prioritizes targets not yet hit by Dark Wind. Removed crazy long silences. Dark Wind can still hit multiple targets, but it will now only silence them once. Is a pretty big deal for him. His passive isn't as big of a deal. It is big, but it is actually pretty big because enemy unit automatically in 800 range has dread is kind of big. And this is really big too because if you remember, if you do fiddle support in bot lane, it's kind of like Brand's ult where it'll just bounce back and forth between them. That's pretty big, man. Because now you're just not silenced forever. But they did increase the silence duration by 5 seconds. Or 0.5 seconds. Galio, let me get in my zone. You're stuck in here with me. Idol of Duran's taunt is no longer reducible by tenacity. That's huge. That's a huge thing. If stuns are no longer reduced by tenacity, it's going to be his ult's going to be insane. I mean, it won't be, big enough to where they change him. He really needs a gameplay update. He still sucks. Sorry. I mean, sorry your top laner, mid laner sucks. That's just my opinion. But hey, man. It is what it is. He needed it. Jarvan 4. If he's making a crater, someone's going to get hurt. Fixed a bug where Jarvan would sometimes fail to do damage if he was killed quickly after landing from Cataclysm. Yes, I've seen that a million times. I think everyone has. Excuse me. No. Jarvan still won't deal damage if he's killed mid-air, but if he's able to land and create the wall, he should always deal damage. Yep, I agree. JAX. The hyper carry is back. Still not to where he was, I don't know, about 4 months ago, 5 months ago at this point now, maybe 6. It's been a while. E Counter-Strike's cooldown was at 10 seconds max rank, and now it goes all the way down to 8, reduced by 2 every level. And Grandmaster's Might, this is a pretty big change at level 16. Your bonus armor goes up from 45 to 50, and your ratio goes up by 0.2, which is huge attack damage ratio. Magic resistance, same thing, 45 to 50, and that is exactly the same. The ability power, I mean. So before this change from Jace, hypercharge now goes on cooldown after the 3rd shot. It was crazy. It was ridiculous. I mean, you could just activate the hypercharge like they say. You wait a bit and then double hypercharge. I'm glad to see Jace is getting a little tiny change. Do I think it's the biggest thing in the world that they need to change? No, but he was OP at using that. I mean, it was high damage for what it was. That's something it was never intended to be. So Jinx's Q, Switcheroo. Switcheroo's spell icon displays the gun Jinx will switch to. No, the gun Jinx is currently using. And then when using rockets, the ability icon will flash like Ashe's Q to show that Jinx is now in mana spending mode. Kennen. Electrical Surge. I believe that these are just ability fixes, right? Oh, okay, I was just reading that. Sorry, it got kind of weird. Time between strikes. 0.5, 0.4, 0.33, 0.25 seconds at all ranks. Time between strikes on the same person, 0.5, 0.4, 0.33, 0.5 at all ranks. I need to read more up on this. Like many champions before him, Veigar, Karthus, and Cho'Gath come to mind, Kennen has been held back by inconsistencies in the timing of his abilities. Yes, Cho'Gath is still messed up with that. After a much-needed round of recoding, we fixed an issue with Electrical Surge, while also tuning Slicing Maelstrom. It's worth noting for Kennen's art that this is a slight late-game nerf to his single-target ult burst, but a buff to his area of effect speed. Okay, that's cool, I like that. Kennen is getting some solid changes because, if anyone remembers, just not too long ago, this guy was a dominating force in League of Legends. And this season, he was gone. Or I guess I should say the past season now, he was gone. Now, this is what I really wanted to talk about. Lucian's got a shorter window. I'm going to be playing Lucian, by the way, all night, and I'll talk about his changes, but I'll get to that later. Lucian's got a shorter window to double tap people with Light Slinger and deals less damage with it at lower levels. So, they did reduce his range from 500 to 550. In my opinion, with these changes now, they should put it back to 550. Number one, they killed his ultimate cooldown. They increased it by huge amounts, huge levels. They took off W's AD scaling, and now they're doing this. Bring his range back to 550. But maybe I'm being too harsh, and maybe he's still a beast in lane. I don't know. I haven't played him yet. Passive Light Slinger. Passive buff duration. Duration? Okay. Now, when you use an ability, you get the double shot Lucian. It used to last for 6 seconds. Now it's 3. I'm glad they changed that from 2 at least. And they turned the ratio off from 0.5 to 0.3 and 0.4. until level 13. That sucks. That sucks. I loved Lucian, and he was the best lane bully ever. But he's gone now, and we'll never get to see that old Lucian from 4 months ago. Some people are saying thank God, but that sucks. Unspeakable Horror for Nocturne. New passive also works with the fears. Nocturne now gains massively increased movement speed when moving toward fear targets. Pantheon. General. Base attack speed 0.679 to 0.625. I gotta be honest with you guys. Sometimes Riot does these things, and I don't know where they come from. Obviously, they know a lot more than me, but that just seems pretty random. If someone could explain that, that'd be epic. Read the context. This gets complicated. Pantheon's attack frame animation speed has been increased by plus 26%. Okay, I'll go back to read that later, but I'm not going to sit here and read that here. Haha, oh dear. Bone Tooth Necklace. Bone Tooth Necklace activates no longer... Bone Tooth Necklace actives no longer benefit from cooldown reduction. Oh, okay. Sedge. Sedge has more base mana. Q no longer scales with max health, but just does straight magic damage. W and E are more focused on consistent damage over time. You know what? You know what, guys? At the beginning of the cycle, I called it. I said they're going to kill Sedge, but you know what? I like it. I really do like it. They're increasing your base mana to 400. Jungle clears, here I come. I don't have to start blue anymore because you would play Sedge and you would just start blue, and if you didn't, you'd run out of mana on the second clear. So these are huge. Arctic Assault. Enemy health scaling. It no longer scales with percent target's maximum health, which means it'll do more damage early. That means, obviously, if your ability scale off of enemy's max health, you have to wait until late game to where they have a ton of health. This makes it so much easier, but, and see, it went to 40, 70, 100, 130, 160, 80, 125, all the way to 260. Damage is crazy now, and I love Riot for doing that. Flare of the Northern Winds mana goes all the way down to 20, and the initial hit damage, though, here we go, we're going to take a little bit of a hit here. It goes from doing ability powered damage with 0.3 scaling all the way to target's max health, plus 3% of per 100 ability power and magic damage. So that got a little bit of a nerf. The mana got buffed, but the area of effect damage right here, I think, is a bit of a buff too, in my opinion. Now, E Permafrost. Cooldown 11 seconds at all ranks. It can now go all the way down to 6, which I love. I love Permafrost. This makes her... this is what makes Sedge Sedge, right? Because she... Okay, like, you fight Sedge, and she just slows you down for oblivion. As long as she's in the fight, she'll be slowing everyone down. And this is what I think makes her the continuous team fighters they were getting into. Before, you could only do it 11 seconds. Now it's every 6 seconds. Imagine with cooldown reduction. So... the damage did get nerfed, though, but that's okay. It went from 60 all the way to 260 to 60 to 180. That's okay. It's a big deal if you're going to be proccing it a lot more now. Okay. And the slow duration went to 1.5 seconds at all ranks, which means you no longer max E, and I would probably max Q now. Shen. Check out this awesome summary. Shadow Dash costs less energy, 20 less. Yes, because Shen would do 2 abilities and he'd be dead pretty much because he'd have no energy. And he'd be stuck auto-attacking in a lane where people are just going to burst you down. Okay. Shyvana Q Twin Bite. Cooldown from 10.9876 to just 9.8765 seconds. A little bit of a buff there with cooldown. And this is new. Burnout now deals plus 20% bonus damage to monsters. Get out of top lane, Shyvana! Go back to the jungle because top lane is now a poke lane. Ah, that bugs me. Soraka, General, base health regen 4.675 to 2.5. It's a big hit there. That's a pretty big hit. And health regen growth stat all the way to 0.5, so she doesn't just keep regenning health while she's giving people health. W, Astral Blessing. Ability power ratio range is now 0.2 ability power to 0.4 from 4.0 to 0.8. Or 0.4 to 0.8, sorry. There's a range because this scales in effectiveness with Soraka's missing health. Now Varus, mana regen per 5 seconds growth stat from 0.5 to 0.8. Whoa! Who would have thought that they were going to buff Varus? I mean, if they keep killing these mobility support or mobility AD carries, he might be a very viable champion to play in lane if you could get over the fact that he has no mobility himself. Warwick, Hunter's Call duration down from 10 seconds to 6 seconds, and his R down from 420 magic damage max rank to 350 magic damage. And it turns out they never gave him the lifesteal that they promised on the PBE. I do not feel sorry for him at all. Yasuo, movement speed 340 to 345, so he can regen flow a lot, and his Q Steel Tempest from 5 seconds to 4 seconds at all ranks. Not the biggest buffs in the world. I think they do realize that they kind of killed him. He went from being like, a god tier champion to not trash tier, but, in the mid-range. Zed can just take him over. Now, Zac now creates extra chunks for each additional champion he hits. That's going to be nice on the jungler clear. And damage went all the way up. Not in the beginning, but it slowly creeps up there, eventually going from max rank 240 now to 280. And R Let's Bounce knockback range. Wow. From 250 to 400, and enemies will be knocked up higher and longer to match the new range. But total crowd control duration remains the same. And they're going to change up some textures here, but that concludes everything else. All I do is I cover the, the whole champion things and what goes on there. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good day, and enjoy the patch.